Have you ever felt life is unfair? Seen someone succeed and thought, they just got lucky? Most of the time, we only see the results, never the hard work, the early mornings, or the failures behind the success. This is a story about why effort matters more than entitlement. In a quiet town called Maple Grove, where mist rolled over the hills each morning, and the church bell marked the rhythm of life, lived a man named Grayson Elwood. He was 34, broad-shouldered but slightly slouched, with the weariness of a man who had spent too many years being angry at everything except himself.
Thanks for the coffee, Marcy.
You are welcome.
Grayson was known around town as a man with potential, the one who could have been something if only life had been fair. He'd been laid off more times than he could count, never because he lacked skill, but because he lacked consistency. He always found someone to blame: the boss, the system, his upbringing, the weather, anything but his own effort. He lived alone in a small, rented apartment above the old hardware store. The walls were thin, the lights flickered, and the refrigerator hummed louder than the silence of his evenings. Some nights, Grayson would sit by the window watching cars drive by and mutter to himself, "If I had what they have, I'd be twice as good." At Betty's Diner, the local spot where the townsfolk gathered, Grayson was a regular. He always sat at the far corner booth, sipping his black coffee slowly, as if each bitter drop carried some deep truth. He talked to anyone who would listen about how unfair life was. "The world's rigged," he'd say, waving his cup for a refill. "Some people are just born lucky. Me, I've been dealt a bad hand since day one." The waitress, Martha, an older woman who'd known Grayson since he was a teenager, would just smile politely. "Maybe you just got to play the hand you got better," she'd say. Grayson would roll his eyes. "Easy for you to say. You've got stability." His younger sister, Alara Elwood, was a sharp contrast to him. At 30, she owned Alara's Oven, a small bakery downtown that smelled like hope and cinnamon. She had started it from scratch with her savings and a small loan. Every morning before dawn, the lights of her bakery came on. While most of Maple Grove was still asleep, Alara was kneading dough, humming softly to old gospel tunes.
Thank you, Lord,
her hands
for
were
this
always covered in flour,
daily
and her
bread.
smile always warm. She wasn't rich, but she was content. Her customers adored her. She knew everyone's favorite pastry by heart. Grayson often passed by her bakery and saw the line of customers. Instead of pride, he felt resentment. She just got lucky, he told himself. Wrong people always get the right breaks. Alara loved her brother deeply, but she'd grown tired of his bitterness. She'd offered to help him multiple times, even offered to invest in a small delivery business for him. But every time she did, he'd snap. "I don't need your charity," he'd say coldly. "It's not charity, Grayson," she'd reply softly. "It's family." "Save your pity, Alara. You think you're better because people buy your muffins?" She'd sigh and let it go. You can't force a closed heart open. Then came that cold autumn morning. The leaves had turned golden red, and the chill of the season settled over Maple Grove like a slow whisper. Alara had fallen ill, nothing serious, just exhaustion and a bad flu. Her doctor ordered a week of rest. "Grayson," she said over the phone, her voice weak but steady, "I need a favor. Can you manage the bakery for a week? Just a week. The girls can help you. I'll guide you through it." He hesitated. The thought of waking up early, serving people, and managing cash registers wasn't exactly appealing. But part of him, that prideful part, wanted to prove that her job wasn't as hard as she made it look. "Fine," he said. "It's just baking bread and selling pastries, right? How hard can it be?" Day 1. Grayson arrived at 4:45 a.m., yawning and half-frozen. The smell of yeast and sugar filled the air. He wore an apron that didn't quite fit and a look of mild confusion. By 6 a.m., customers started pouring in: early workers, mothers, and students. The cash register beeped constantly. The two helpers, Rita and June, moved quickly, calling out orders. 2 croissants, 1 cappuccino. 3 muffins ago. Where's the change or table 4? Grayson fumbled with the register, dropped coins, burned his hand on the coffee pot, and snapped at Rita more than once. By noon, the display shelves were half empty, and he realized he hadn't even baked enough to meet the morning demand. By the end of the day, he was drenched in sweat and stress. Day 2, things got worse. Customers complained that their bread was late. A delivery order went missing. The card machine froze. When a regular customer, Mrs. Caldwell, politely mentioned her pie wasn't as good as usual, Grayson snapped. Maybe it's your taste buds. Rita and June exchanged nervous glances. Word traveled fast in Maple Grove the new manager at Alara's Oven was rude and careless. By the time Alara called that evening to check in, Grayson could barely speak. It's fine, he muttered. Just a long day. But the truth hit him hard. This was not luck. It was grit. It was discipline. It was humility. Day 7. By the last day, something inside Grayson shifted. He woke up before the alarm. He cleaned the counters before Rita arrived. He even smiled at a customer. When Alara finally returned, still weak but smiling, she found him sitting at the counter tired, quiet, and thoughtful. How was it? She asked gently. He didn't answer right away. He just looked around the messy flour, the lingering smell of bread, the register full of crumpled receipts, and sighed. I thought you just baked cakes, he said softly. Didn't know you built an empire. Alara chuckled weakly. It's not an empire, Gray. It's work. That's all. For the first time in years, Grayson didn't argue. The turning point. A few weeks later, he took a job at a lumber yard on the edge of town. It wasn't glamorous. His hands blistered, his back ached, and his clothes smelled of sawdust, but it was honest. Each payday, he'd buy coffee for Martha at the diner. Each morning, he'd stop by Alara's oven for breakfast. The bitterness in his voice began to fade, replaced with a kind of peace. He started saving little by little, not waiting for luck, not blaming fate. When his coworkers complained about the boss, he'd say, Yeah, it's tough, but we're lucky to have the work. Years passed. Maple Grove changed, but Grayson didn't leave. He stayed, built a life of quiet dignity. The man who once believed the world owed him everything had learned that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you work for. In real life, many people carry silent frustration, believing life has treated them unfairly. We look at others who seem to be doing well and assume they were simply lucky. But we rarely see the early mornings, the tired nights, the failures, and the discipline behind their success. When we stop complaining and start working, even small steps begin to change our lives. Progress may be slow, but peace grows where effort lives. Moral: entitlement blinds you to effort. The world doesn't owe you anything, but it will give you everything if you earn it. Let's learn some words from the story. Vocabulary section. Entitlement: the belief that the world owes you something. Example: his entitlement made him blame others for his problems. Consistency: doing something regularly and reliably. Example: success requires consistency, not just talent. Resentment: slow, bitter anger toward someone. Example: he felt resentment when others succeeded. Stability: a steady and secure condition. Example: she worked hard to build stability in her life. Content: feeling happy with what you have. Example: she wasn't rich, but she was content with her bakery. Exhaustion: extreme tiredness. Example: she fell sick because of exhaustion from overworking. Hesitate: to pause before doing something. Example: he hesitated before agreeing to manage the bakery. Demand: a need or desire for something from customers. Example: the bakery had high demand for bread every morning. Discipline: the ability to stay focused and work hard each day. Example: running a shop requires strong discipline. Humility: being humble, not thinking you are better than others. Example: he learned humility after working in the bakery. Dignity: quiet self-respect. Example, honest work helped him regain his dignity. Blisters, painful bubbles on the skin caused by repeated work. Example, he got blisters on his hands from lifting wood. Empire, figurative, something built with effort and care. Example, he realized a bakery was a small empire built on hard work. Paid off, when effort brings a good result. Example, his patience paid off in the end. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that effort beats entitlement. Thumbs up like. Comment what lesson hit you the hardest. And bell subscribe to Fables by Sue for more powerful life stories that change the way you think.